Hello everyone, my name is Alan Jones and I give you a warm welcome to another life story coming to you from Life Stories Worldwide. We are live on Facebook, Zoom, YouTube and StreamYard. You can also watch it live on our YouTube channel, Lifestoriesworldwide.com. That's probably one of the easiest ways to watch it. We bring you stories from across the world, and the stories go out across the world. And we bring you stories of people who've gone through various struggles in their life, people who face depression, rejection, and many other trials, and how they've come through and their lives have been transformed. Our story today comes from Portsmouth in the UK, where we have Geoff Powell, who's waiting to share his story. His family went out to Botswana when Geoff was just 2 and returned to the UK when he was 7. At 14 years of age, he had a tumour in his jaw which caused him a lot of fear. He thought he was going to die. And he's gone through many trials in his life, which he's going to share, but he's come through. And I'm sure his story is going to help many people. So it's a great pleasure to invite Geoff to share his story. Thank you, Geoff.
Thanks, Alan. What a privilege. Good evening to everyone. And I'd like to start with a prayer, really. And that is from the Psalms. I love the Psalms. And that is, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, my God and my Redeemer. That was written about 3,000 years ago by King David, my favourite Old Testament character from the Bible. But Jesus is my Redeemer. I started life 1968 in about as far north in England as you can get, a place called Carlisle. And my father was a flying instructor there. By the time I was 2, though, he'd changed jobs. Was still flying, but my mum and dad had become missionaries, Christian missionaries. They decided that their faith was as strong as they wanted to serve overseas, use some of those skills. My mum was a nurse, and my father was mechanical minded and a pilot, and so that they were able to be taken on by the Scottish Missionary Society and head off to Botswana. So all my first memories were nothing to do with England, although I was born there, but were to do with a very hot, dry, yellow, brown, dusty, amazing, vibrant, sunny, blue-skied place. A tiny little village, I think about 30 miles outside the capital of Botswana, which is a country just to the north of South Africa. So I had many, it must have been, as a parent now looking back, I think it must have been such a challenge for my parents to sell up, give up everything that they knew in England, and they thought they would probably be moving for life, far away from family, to spread the gospel of Jesus, to help run a hospital to a place that was really needed, medical care was needed, and it must have been a really challenging place to parent, because there were snakes, there were scorpions, there were wild animals running around at times. There were plenty of dangers and things to keep an eye on with toddlers. And my first memories in Africa, actually, one and the main one, fantastic one. 3-year-old got a green tricycle and charged around this, happily playing in the sand, carefree. Felt absolutely amazing about that. And the other memory, sadly, is getting bitten right in the face by a big dog, and there's kind of some scars on my face and stuff like that. But even at the age of 3, me and my parents were praying over me, and a surgeon happened to be visiting the hospital in Molipololi, the village, to help sew me up and sort out the bite right on my nose and my face. So I don't remember anything about the kind of dog attack, and it wasn't really like the dog's fault. It was a scenario with blah blah blah. It wasn't a wild dog, it was a domestic situation, and the poor dog was sleeping, and I shoved my face right onto its nose and stuff, and got bitten. So my first other memory was lying screaming on in an operating theatre, wondering what the heck was going on, and then very soon, knocked out, and have pretty much survived that. My sight could have been ruined. Anything could have happened. That was much more life-threatening than it was. So moved back to England when I was 7, and England seemed really weird to me. Hugely bright green, totally different culture. Although I'd gone to an international school, multicultural school, for the start of my schooling. It was weird trying to fit in. I guess I probably from that point on felt a bit behind and trying to play catch up with schooling being English and so on. But I soon settled in, had a fantastic childhood, largely in Dorset. Great place to grow up, had loads of fantastic cousins and family. So all that was great. Church was really central to that life, obviously. The reason my parents had to move back from Botswana after only 4 or 5 years was that the country had nationalised, and it was in the mid-70s, and there wasn't a coup or any massive political upheaval, but just a handing over from European colonial sort of dominance to the Botswanan authorities running their country, and so that handover was made and so on. So my father went back to working at sea. That had been his first job before he had become a pilot. Even he was a navigator, and so that mum was left with the kids at home while he was away, and that was a challenge as well. Things were fine until I developed a tumour on the left side of my jaw here, and it was a dentist that first noticed it, and it was changing my bite, my jaw, and was starting to get painful and growing, and I had to have an operation. And again, God's protection, I feel. It wasn't cancerous. It was a challenge. It was quite a lot of pain. It was, I don't have a jaw joint this side. I just have 2 bone endings and stuff. I think it's a fairly rare operation, but nothing earth-shattering. It was fantastic that the tumour was benign and wasn't cancerous. And actually, funnily enough, one of my cousins was a nurse at Powell Hospital, and Louise, and saw the operation being done. So she was able to tell me about it when I was recovering later on. She was amazing. But what had happened before that, before I went into hospital, was, I don't know, I was always seemed to be naturally quite a worrier and an overthinker with a vivid imagination, and worry about things going wrong, worry about pain, worry about getting hurt, worrying. And I realised that I kind of suddenly thought about general anaesthetics. Thought, what if I don't come round? What if I die? And was really overthinking and worst casing hugely this pretty routine operation. But it drove me to consider my faith at 14, and I decided to get baptised and accept Jesus as my saviour and become a follower. And that was the first real kind of spiritual turning point in my life. Obviously, influenced by my background, my parents, the surroundings, my church, and it was to be that faith was to then really be tested when I was an adult fending for myself as older. I went through schooling and did A-levels. I wanted to be a pilot like Dad. I tried a few things like applying for the Royal Navy to be a pilot. I passed like written tests and aptitude tests and medicals and stuff like that. Didn't get in though, a lot of competition, didn't get in on leadership. And again, I think that was God's protection as well, because I didn't know at that time some of the mental health challenges that I was going to be having later on, but God did. He didn't want that for me, but he allowed that to happen and knew about that. And I think that, and you know, I wasn't good enough to get into the Royal Navy. I totally accept that. And that selection process worked very well for both of us. As time went on, because I'd passed everything apart from leadership, I was sent on a 3-week course, and it was fantastic in Wales. Absolutely loved it in many ways, but I tell you what, it gave me an insight into, did I want to join the military? You know, how serious was this? And it was not being mollycoddled. It was an awakening, a reality check, point of growing up. And I realized that it made me soul search, made me realize, no, I don't think I'm the right person for this, to train to kill. I'm not really a fighter. I'm not, and for all those other reasons. But anyway, I wasn't, after that course, that Outward Bound course, I was given the chance to reapply, and I decided not to do that. And I went to London I failed and again, another thing that I really beat myself up about. I didn't get the grades to get my university place, but I still did get to a London college. I don't know, I think God I get a real strong sense that God made me, loves me, and has watched over me in often, as we do in life, we try things, particularly as we're growing up, we make some foolish decisions, we try things, we put out feelers, we have dreams and hopes, and we crack on. I cracked on, and I managed to get a humanities degree, but I still had no idea of direction or what I wanted to do, apart from I wanted adventure. I wanted, like, you know, I had heard stories from my dad about deep sea, in the merchant navy, his flying, his traveling, I wanted some of that. So what I did was started sport parachuting in my last year of college, aged about 19, 20. And yeah, that gave me a bit of excitement. I was looking for kind of affirmation, and I was very unconfident. I wanted the attention that you get from, like, wow, you're jumping out of airplanes. That's so brave and amazing. And I fully admit that was kind of my thinking. I was so petrified the first parachute jump I did. I was praying out loud. The engine noise was very loud. People didn't realize, but it's a really quite safe sport and an amazing sport. But I did that for about a year, and my faith was kind of becoming weaker, and I lost my way a bit, really. I was putting a lot of focus onto this. In that year that I spent earning money, and you could partly earn money as well on the drop zone and pack parachutes and things like that, do jobs like that. And just within that year, I saw someone break both their ankles on a bad landing. I saw someone break their back. It was largely safe, but when things went wrong, or people didn't listen to their training, it could be pretty serious. A couple of things that happened to me. I landed so close to the windsock near the drop zone one time, the parachute hung up. You know, you're supposed to avoid that, but before I was on squared parachutes, they're not so maneuverable. That was a close one. That wouldn't have been comfortable, landing on the pole of the windsock near the drop zone. One of my jumps, I was in the plane, and the pin at the back of, again, a round parachute popped out, and the instructor the plane had to land. It wasn't anything I'd done wrong, or that there was an inquiry into whether it had been packed wrong, whatever. But again, if that parachute had gone out the open door, the instructor immediately shut the door, and the whole plane could have gone down. So and finally, towards the end of that year, a girl died as well, on the drop zone. in an accident, and I was starting to question. By this time, I'd done about 40 jumps and done skydiving. It was amazing. It was adrenaline. It was, good for my self-esteem and all of that. But I was thinking, with my temperament, bit slapdash, bit of a daydreamer, this might not end well. And I still hadn't had any mental health issues, but that was to come sort of within a few months after that. I was 21. I moved back home. I was saving up to travel America, and again I was, just lost. I didn't really have a plan or idea of kind of what I was going to do. Amazing privilege to have had the education, to have graduated as a degree, with a degree. I met this amazing young girl called Geoff at our church youth group, and she was totally unimpressed with me parachuting and showing off like that and doing all that sort of stuff. And she made it quite clear. She's a lovely Christian girl, but she made it quite clear, look, if you're going to get to know me, I'm going to have no part of parachuting, bungee jumping, adrenaline sports like that. She gets motion sickness quite easily. Very adventurous girl, an outdoor girl, so I thought, as I got to know her, I totally fell in love with this girl, and I thought, wow, I've got a decision to make here, and I think getting to know Jet is going to be a lot more exciting than carrying on trying to get my jumps in and get to 200 jumps and then be able to do display jumps and and get into a world of parachuting and stuff. So I was doing a really mundane office job, trying to save up to go to America, dating Jet, and I suddenly stopped sleeping, and appetite, signs of what I now know as clinical depression. Didn't seem to really be any reason behind it, but I just, black cloud, there could be partly spiritual reasons. I was a chocolate binger as a young person. That could have had a hand in it. I never really found out, but anyway, crash. I did have went into quite a deep depression. Again, which is hard to understand. I had like everything going for me. There's no real logical reason for that. So it's definitely partly chemical. In the end, what was going through my mind was that, and this is back in the late 1980s, and in Britain, really, then it was very stiff upper lip. In other words, you wouldn't talk about emotional stuff. You wouldn't talk about private mental health issues. I didn't really have anyone to talk to. I don't think my parents, I wasn't really that honest with them about what I was going through anyway. And in the end, what I thought was that I was going mad. As I was sleeping less and less, I was just becoming so tired. I couldn't function. I was just, flashing lights in front of my eyes. I never hallucinated or heard voices or anything, but just totally, in a terrible way, in a really evil way. I got thoughts, I'll be better off out of here. I'm going to shame the family. I'm going mad. This is just awful. And I sadly, I took an overdose, and fortunately, my dad found me, and the NHS stumped my stomach and pumped my stomach out and saved me and helped me. Now, what's incredible to me to look back, and what a lot of young people might look back and think, the reaction to that of my GP was to just give me a short pep talk and just check everything was okay, and it clearly wasn't, because and I was saying, it was like a cry for help from a mistake. I don't know what. I was confused. I was poorly. I was trying to recover. Things had come to a head, and I'd survived. I was hugely relieved for that. And in those days, if mental illness went on your record, it was really a real blight on your CV, on your record, on your, it just closed so many doors. And I guess the doctor was really thinking, you know, that I was educated, I had lots of family support, that I would be okay. I was saying all the right things, and moving on and just sweeping it, that whatever issues had caused, or whatever clinical and spiritual and mental issues I'd just swept them under the carpet and just carried on, and just, we all pretended it kind of hadn't really happened, and I was going to get better. I was better. I charged on. To my amazement, Jet stayed totally loyal with me. We carried on going out. We got married. I decided to try teaching career, secondary school teaching. That's a nice, relaxing career to go into if you've had stress problems. I didn't declare the mental health issue I'd had, and it was really exciting and amazing and good for a few years. And again, something I made kind of a start at. After 3 or 4 years, my mental health was just starting to collapse again under stress and overload, and my nature of finding it really difficult to be organized, and goodness knows what it, you know, I don't know what it is. It just is, whether it's dyspraxia, whether it's not been like diagnosed, it could be just laziness. Maybe it's just laziness, maybe whatever. But God was looking down on all of this. I was still at church. I was protected. I had this amazing young wife. The teaching career had enabled us to set up home and have a mortgage and buy a house. And what was I going to do? It was, and Jet just said, look, you know, my career is going to, she was doing well, but she just said, look, you stay at home and look after any kids. I mean, we pretty much about the same time, through no fault of my own, Jet fell pregnant, and Connor came along. We had our first kid, so we decided to that I would stay at home and be what apparently was called a house husband, and nurture the kids. And that's a pretty trusting thing of Jet to do. I see most of the time, apart from, as time went on, recurring theme, so highs and lows, mental health that was generally fine, you know, and I was very adverse to like taking medication. I didn't want, you know, counselling or someone or psychiatrist. That scared me. I had Jesus. I didn't need, you know, any of that help. And you know, learning point, something I've really learned, we all have a mental health that we're responsible for, to nurture, to take care of, and to be helped by other people. And you can do foolish stuff that breaks that down. And it could be, you know, poor choices about what type of job you go into, like one of mine was. It could be diet, what you're eating, whether you're taking care of your sleep, whether what you're watching as well, what you're taking in, what you're feeding on, what you're telling yourself. You know, when I look back, I think, yeah, I was really beating myself up, thinking I'm a failure. I'd failed at, you know, a number of things, and yet, and there was Jeanette succeeding, and her career was kind of taking off in the civil service, and she was just so steady and optimistic, and that's why she's been the best blessing of my life. You know, that's why God put us together, though, because as a team, it appears that we make a good team, because I've been able to support her. She's been able to support me in times of illness. So yeah, that's kind of childhood and young adulthood into then. I'm wearing this shirt because it brings back happy memories of 1996 when Connor was born, when England football team very nearly won the Euros at Wembley, but in England, but it wasn't quite to be. They failed, but anyway, it was that was an amazing summer, and Connor was born in September, and I have a really close bond with my kids because I I stayed at home for 10 years, and I did some part-time jobs. I did a bit of one-to-one tuition teaching. I did just other various things that I could try, and some successful, more successful than others, try and fit around looking after the kids and doing the school runs as they grew up and stuff like that. I think I was still pretty lost in my faith, though. It's like my ideas and what I wanted came very much first. And yeah, I was living the dream in terms of a family, that responsibility, 2 healthy children, amazing wife.